Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Halo in Review podcast series. If you're unfamiliar, this is a podcast series we go through, spend each episode breaking down each Halo game with the legendary Haas aside.
Boop, boop, bop,
We're
bop.
we're on to the cringe compilation of the series, Hosty.
Yeah, this is where it gets bad. Um, well, these last two games have been, I know you like Halo 4, so
Yeah, it's fine.
I think the last one is gonna be the best, with Halo Wars 2.
Yes,
Um, I'm ready for some Halo 5. Let's go.
this
So,
is just there. There are looking at our list. There's very few positives and a lot of negatives on our lists.
yeah.
I think the community agrees overall. But what's going on with Halo 5? When did it come out? What's the deal?
So, Halo 5 came out October 27th, 2015, developed by 343, and the reception is overwhelmingly mixed. So, unlike what IGN, GameSpot, and Metacritic have to say, the overall user reviews are overwhelmingly mixed. So, IGN says a 9 out of 10. Okay. Someone paid them to say that. GameSpot, 8 out of 10. And Metacritic, 84 out of 100.
Yeah, this I say this in other episodes and I say it when we play Halo Wars 2, but the numbering of a reviewer publication like IGN or GameSpot is
It's so inflated.
sometimes it can be right on the money, other times it is a huge miss, and this is a huge miss.
Absolutely. So I don't know how they got a 9 out of 10 with a game that was lacking custom games browser, Forge, and theater at launch.
Yeah, it
You know,
sounds
like,
all too familiar of what's launching in Halo Infinite later this year.
yeah, we'll see another 9 out of 10 from IGN. They just are extremely biased against Halo games. So, and we're not trying to be overly critical, but Halo 5 was quite a launch. Quite an interesting launch. So, some little fun facts about the game. This was the first Halo game with a subtitle since Combat Evolved.
I,
Um,
I have
yeah,
no idea why they did that. Absolutely, I understand it's to put emphasis on the Guardians, but never the game never went into what the Guardians like. What's the whole point of all these things? It ends on.
yeah,
I just can't sometimes with this game, and this whole thing is cringe.
yes, yes, it is. So they had a similar to, I guess they were trying to recreate like the Believe ad campaign with the Hunt the Truth ad campaign. So one thing to note here is that 343 actually lost a lawsuit because of these ad campaigns, saying they were deceptive. Fun
Interesting.
little fact there. I saw you added the fun fact of the Hunt the Truth campaign. I was like, I have to add this in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember seeing on the news that they actually lost a lawsuit from somebody. I don't know if it was a class action, but um, that whoever filed that got paid. So
So what I find real interesting about this Hunt the Truth campaign is they had for the launch of Halo 5 Guardians a really large budget for TV commercials.
oh my
And
gosh, they did, yeah.
it was like at the time in 2015, like every other commercial on like sports networks was
Hmm.
a Hunt the Truth TV commercial. And it showed kind of like the same commercial with two different perspectives. And
Yeah,
one was like Spartan Locke about to execute the Master Chief and saying some sort of speech I've forgotten about since. And then the other commercial was the same thing, just in reverse, where Master Chief was executing Spartan Locke. And
yeah,
a lot of people were like, I wish we got that as like the Halo campaign because the Hunt the
yeah,
Truth had absolutely nothing to do with what was in Halo 5.
yeah. They, after like the first 4 missions, which felt like 2 missions compared to like the other games like Halo 1 or Halo 3. They basically just dropped it. That was it. Um, which was really weird because that means the majority of the campaign had nothing to do with the ads. Which, like, if you watch Halo Reach's campaign ad campaigns, they had, it was like a prelude to what was going on in Reach. They showed the old Noble Six, basically what he did to die, and then in Halo 3, they showed Starry Night, which they introduced new stuff like the bubble shield. They didn't deceive people, though. They introduced a lot of things that were in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then not much, I don't remember too much of Halo 1 and 2's ad campaigns, but there weren't much compared to 3, Reach. Halo 4 had a couple, but Reach had like the second best besides Halo 3.
Yeah.
Um, and they were mostly live action, if I remember correctly. But
Yeah. It was an interesting time because I thought it was to give you kind of like a primer for what you would experience in the
Mhm.
campaign. And those who played Master Chief Collection before, we knew as Halo fans that Halo 2 Anniversary was like the spotlight of MCC, and there's that
Mhm.
new cutscene that opens up in Halo 2 Anniversary with RB and Spartan Locke, who I don't think we knew who Spartan Locke was at the time when you saw it in
No,
H2A,
no.
but I thought like that would connect somehow with Hunt the Truth, which would connect to this campaign. And then like you play the campaign for the first time and you're like, okay, where is this gonna like, intersect with what we saw in Halo 2 Anniversary and Hunt the Truth? And the answer is you never do.
Yeah,
And
they just don't connect.
no, no, they don't.
Yeah, it's awful. Obviously, it was awful enough for them to lose a lawsuit. So Halo 5 Guardians was the first Halo game, controversially, without split screen. This is going as well talking about, the IGN's 9 out of 10. Um, that's so weird. Like,
Yeah.
how do you release a couch co-op game that is couch co-op every single other iteration? We're talking, you know, we're talking Halo Reach, Halo 1, Halo 2, Halo ODST, Halo 3, Halo 4, all couch co-op. Halo 5, nah, we're not going to do it.
I wonder
Um,
if like 343 had some sort of data from like MCC and even maybe even the 360 Halos that like
uh,
indicated like how many people actually use split screen. And I this is like a theory I have is like the data probably said like hardly any because times
yeah, because
times
no one
had
was playing it.
changed. Like everyone has internet now, and when Halo 1 launched, not everyone did. So like people got
Yeah.
their Halo fix by playing local couch co-op split screen, and I wonder if they're like, maybe this is a feature that not a lot of people use anymore, so it won't be missed. I don't know if they did it maliciously, but
Mhm.
I think what was absurd was they just threw their hands up in the air and they're like, it's not coming back in Halo 5. Like
Yeah.
they just said it's not coming, even though people wanted it. They're like it's just technological. What they say was like technically incapable of Halo 5 running split screen because they wanted to keep the 60 FPS the whole entire time,
Mhm.
and the worthless VCR potato Xbox couldn't run it with doing it twice. I don't know. It
Yeah,
was
it's bogus.
it is.
Um, so Forge mode, this is the first ever game where they added Forge mode onto PC.
Mm-hmm.
Besides, yeah, because Halo, yeah, it was the first.
And I
Um,
heard this was quite good.
yes. Oh my gosh, it's still really good. The Forge mode in Halo 5 is incredible. Um, you can actually play custom games on it too, which is really nice. But I only downloaded it for the achievements, so.
So this is what really confuses me is maybe I don't know enough, but I feel like I do. To get Halo 5 Forge and Halo 5 custom games running on PC, wouldn't you arguably say that like why can't you have all of Halo 5 running on PC? Like cuz
Yeah,
you
it's
have
kind of weird.
the engine, you have assets, you have services, you have like integration with Xbox Live. I mean, like, it's all there. Why did you not put in matchmaking or at least campaign? I don't
Yeah.
know. It's just so bizarre to me. And
Like they have controls too.
yeah,
That's the thing. Like there's controls that you can even use on PC to move your character around. Like what?
I don't know. For the Halo game, that's like probably the most important, I think, for you to understand what's going on in Halo Infinite besides Halo Wars 2. It's the only Halo game, literally the only Halo game that you can't play campaign on PC. I don't understand it.
Oh God, you're right. Yeah, every single Halo game can now be played on PC
Even
except
Spartan
for
Assault
5.
and Spartan Strike.
Wow.
Every single one except Halo 5. I don't understand that. And you need to, from what I heard, you need to play Halo 5 to understand Halo Infinite. So, who
Yeah,
knows?
I remember specifically them saying that you don't need to play any of the previous Halo games, or as well, you don't need to read the books to understand what goes on in Halo Infinite, and obviously that's not going to happen. So,
Yeah.
oh, so next fun fact is Halo 5 Guardians, surprisingly, had the highest prize pool for any Halo tournament for all time. Like they had a $1 million prize pool Halo tournament at one point, and I think they actually had a bigger one, from my memory serves correctly, because they funded the pool using microtransactions in Halo 5.
Wow.
Yeah, they took, I think it was like 40 or 50% of the transaction immediately went to the prize pool for Halo 5's invitational for the year.
That's amazingly awful.
Isn't it? Crowd-funded tournament.
Uh, Ladies and
So,
gentlemen, we did it.
we did it. So, yeah, that was always nice. But no, it's like, come on, guys. Oh, and the worst part is that this one was in a tent. I remember this actually. It was a
Oh my god,
yeah, it
yeah.
was a $1 million tournament inside of a tent
I re-
outside of a building.
I remember seeing that they had like really cheap posters and they had like oscillating like $10 fans from Walmart.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I remember that. That's
it was held
terrible.
outside. Like, oh my gosh,
That's that's
that was,
actually awful.
yep. I completely forgot about that until we started talking about this prize pool. Like, holy cow. The Halo 3 tournament by UGC was way better than that. And they had technical problems the entire way through it. So,
Wonderful.
um, they just didn't know what they were doing. I don't get it. Who was Tashi still the esports lead at that time?
If I got to be honest with you, I am actually clueless when it comes to esports. So, I apologize.
You're fine. But yeah, that's absolutely
Like, I'm dumber than
ridiculous.
dirt when it comes to esports. Let's just put it that way.
That's fair. I know he's doing a fantastic job for Infinite at least. So
Yeah.
if he was, that may have been like his starting position or something like that, and that's why it was outside in a tent. So, yeah.
Well, do you
Well,
want to run over the very few positive things we have to
yeah.
say about Halo 5 before we go back to trash talking it? Um, I can start off. Let's dive into our favorite memories here. And
Yes.
there's very few memories I have of Halo 5 because I want to forget everything about this. But I will say, and this pretty much encompasses all of my positives, seeing the Arbiter again and doing, I think it's 2 missions on the Elite Homeworld and experiencing like the Civil War going on.
Three missions.
3 missions. It
Yep.
is absolutely incredible. And I feel like this would be the perfect foundation or experience for an elite focused Halo game where like maybe Arbiter's a protagonist of some sort of Halo spin-off and we get to
Oh my gosh.
experience more of this
Yes.
conflict cuz the environments were so well designed, the gameplay, the level design, the voice acting, just the story got elevated so high in these very few missions, and that's really like the only important thing of this entire campaign.
Yeah.
It's the only
Uh,
memorable part, and it was fantastic.
I will say the capital city of St. Helios made no sense.
No, not at all.
Um, yeah, like it was simply theatrics. Like it was in the middle of water in basically an ocean, and everywhere you went inside the city did not look like a city whatsoever. Like there was no buildings, there was no inside where like there was tools or anything like that. It was just all like super covenant um structures and like huge turrets and defenses and stuff like that. It made no sense to me and how
Like
small it was.
every building just had like an arsenal of rifles and needlers and
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah. There's just something about those missions that I really enjoyed because it kind of gave me
Mhm.
throwbacks to Halo 2. Playing as RB and seeing RB again and his new
Okay.
look. But uh, yeah, I really enjoyed that. And so it's kind of a double. My favorite memory and my favorite mission is the Swords of St. Helios.
That's fair. I said that as mine too.
Yeah.
So I will say uh that like those missions are your favorite, not missions but like seeing Arbiter again, stuff like that being your favorite memory. I did not uh like it may have just been like the story direction of that game, but how quickly they cut off Arby. It was like, oh, we're going on a side mission to go hang out with Arby, and then that's it.
Yeah.
Nothing else happens past that point with Arbiter. It's like they just threw him in for a cameo for like 3 missions, and then that was it.
I
Um,
really thought that they should have brought him in because what I thought was happening was, and I think there's a little bit of a theme going on of Halo 5 and a correlation to the Avengers because like the Avengers was
okay,
so popular during this time and I feel like Halo 5 tried so hard to be the Avengers of either Halo or just gaming in general. They're pulling all of these characters from seemingly thin air. I mean, you get Blue Team, Fire Team Osiris, you have Buck from ODST, you bringing back Arby, you have Dr. Halsey and Lasky, and you bring back Cortana, and now you're introducing like Warden Eternal and the Guardian. I mean, there's characters
that's
everywhere,
fair.
and
Yeah,
I think what they were trying to do is be like, this conflict is so huge that we need everybody, and this game doesn't do good with anyone. Um, and I thought that yeah, Arby was gonna like tag along with like Fire Team Osiris and help hunt down Cheap, but no, that he doesn't really. He just kind of vanishes.
yeah. It's so weird how quickly it happened too. Like,
Yeah.
the even the cutoff, like this theatrics where Arbiter throws his sword in the air at the very end of the mission is like it just cut off and the music just cut off. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
okay, that felt kind of cringe actually. You know, the way it just cuts off so suddenly after they're like, raising their swords and all that, like a good old hoorah. It's like, oh, okay, there's nothing after this. That was the end. So, um, felt like a bad war movie in that scene. So, my favorite memory, I would say, of Halo 5 was a couple years after the game even came out. And that is the custom games browser. It is amazing.
You had me hanging on there for a minute.
Yep, there it is.
Yeah.
Wow. That is there's some really good custom games in Halo 5. If you like Reach custom games, go play Halo 5 custom games. You will be blown away like how good they are. There are a lot of very cringy custom games like lobbies though, where you'll just get in and people spawn kill you for like 3 hours. But there are other ones where it's crazy how like detailed, and I saw a guy made like a 6 or 7 story detailed skyscraper with cubicles and everything inside of it. It was nuts. Or people creating like a super amazing like fat kid, or they had so many mechanics to them. And it made no sense to me how this was not like a developed thing by 343 because it looked that legit. Um, just as an example, in Forge, people made the the tech preview, the first map for Halo Infinite in Halo 5.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah, and as well, somebody already recreated the Halo Infinite trailer, like the one where Chief is stepping around in the control room of a Halo ring. Uh, when he's like walking up to pick up the weapon, or Cortana, whoever it is. They recreated that entire section where he's walking in. And
Interesting.
when you get close enough to the ring too, part of it explodes. It's nuts. Um, but yeah, Forge is amazing. What's your cringe moment about this game?
My cringe moment is the entire campaign. from from beginning to end. I mean, let me tell you,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
the opening cutscene, with the exception of that atrocious speech that is done before they all drop. You ask, you buy. I'm like, oh my god, here we go already. But like that
Mhm.
opening drop of them, like kicking ass going down the snowfall against the Covenant or whatever. And then as soon as you start playing, up until the moment where Dr. Halsey says, took you long enough, with the exception that I said of where you're on Swords of St. Helios, is entirely cringe. Um,
Yeah,
I,
that's fair.
I could not stand my time in this. It doesn't feel like a Halo game. You jump to so many locations and so many characters and so many perspectives that you seemingly, at least I, have no idea what was going on most of the time. It was one of those stories where it ends and you go, okay, what even happened? Did anything happen? We'll get into this in depth a little bit later in the show, but I just can't with this.
Yeah. This I love so this is has to do with my cringe moment here. So this is a good game. As much as it pains me to say that. This is not and you'll hear this quote a lot from like a bunch of YouTubers. This is a good game, not a good Halo game.
Mm,
This is a good standalone game if they got rid of the campaign and marketed it differently. You could completely remove this from Halo as a whole. Like you could just straight up say that this isn't even Halo anymore. With all of the abilities, with seemingly all of the weapon changes, it would be it would look like a Halo reproduction, honestly.
yeah,
Especially with like Breakout. Breakout, like their competitive game that they added where it felt like search and destroy from COD.
yeah.
Yeah, that whole thing they added in. I actually like that. I'll get into that later. But for the most part, you could just say it's a different game and people would believe you. As long as you remove the campaign, remove the characters from it. So that is my entire cringe moment. This game just is it's so bizarrely different from everything else Halo has to offer before. Art style, because you have the art style changes from Halo 4. You added ground pound, you added shoulder charge, you added all of these new different weapons. The soldiers from the Promethean side, like you're fighting more Prometheans than Covenant, basically for the most part. Um, the multiplayer maps just don't fit. They feel like they're from a COD game or something.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
For the most part, like maybe the maps that feel like they're from a Halo game are the forged maps, and that's because they're made in Forge, is why they feel like a Halo game. Um, but some of the remake maps feel like they're from Halo, kind of. They
The,
just, I don't, I don't know. That's just my opinion on the game. You can get your opinion from someone else. I will say I do like the multiplayer. Through all of that, the multiplayer still works, but I normally only play Breakout or Elimination. So,
yeah, I can read my positives real quick because I don't have that that many of them. I agree with you that the multiplayer is fantastic. They really nailed the gunplay in Halo 5. I mean, it didn't feel like so like the advanced movement trilogy of Call of Duty really bugged me. That was Infinite Warfare, Black Ops
Yeah.
3 and Advanced Warfare. I just those three games, just the multiplayer really turned me away from COD, and I really haven't played it since. But Halo has almost similar movements, but it's more grounded, and I think it's a more balanced experience.
Yeah.
And I actually enjoyed my time with Halo 5's multiplayer. I didn't play it as much as some of the other games. I mostly played it more right after launch, and then my interest kind of faded, especially as once Halo Wars 2 came out. But it's fun. Halo 5's multiplayer is good. I would argue it's better than Halo 4. I would argue it's almost like one of the best in the whole series. And I don't want people to overlook that because the campaign is so atrocious. Um, I almost kind of wonder maybe what if they were like kind of split the game in half, kind of like what they're doing with Infinite, where it's two different
Yeah.
apps. But because not a lot of people play Halo 5 anymore, from what I understand. I don't think a lot of people.
It's about the same amount of people that play Halo 3 on MCC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's
It's still a played game.
and you know Warzone is fun, and using the what's it called, the rec system. I mean, it's cool.
God.
I mean, it's cool for what it is. It quickly gets old, but it's different. Um it's interesting, but I would really stick to just simply the multiplayer. And my last
Yeah.
positive point is a quick campaign note. It's just cool to see Blue Team again for those of you who read the books. And I thought adding Buck into the mainline Halo series is neat as well.
That's
Granted,
just neat.
it's just plain old neat. You have to read one of the books to understand that, and I only read like 2 Halo books, and somehow the one book I read answered that question. Um,
Uh, so you talking about like the Advanced Warfare series, like how when they get into the crazy stuff. So a little fun thing I wanted to say, how little people liked that Advanced Movement like series basically. Infinite Warfare reveal trailer. So get this, it has the most views ever. It has the most likes and the most dislikes
yeah,
ever in
yeah.
a Halo, in not a Halo, in a Call of Duty game. It has almost 4 million dislikes.
I remember that broke records. Um,
Yeah,
the the
it was the I was gonna say it was the most disliked video for a while. So
the
until
only reason why I bought Infinite Warfare was because they selfish or greedily, is greedily a word? They maliciously bundled Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered in with Infinite Warfare, because for the
yeah,
longest time that was the only way you could play COD 4 Remastered, and I loved COD 4. So I bought that bundle specifically for COD 4, and I was like, well, I guess I bought COD 4, let me try this Infinite Warfare, and I instantly regretted my decision. But um yeah. Yeah, that's I believe that. I believe that. Most disliked ever.
yeah, yeah, it was pretty bad. And if the COD player base didn't like that, and Halo was becoming codified, so to say, from Halo 4 and Halo 5, that's not good.
No.
They're going in the same bad direction that COD did at that moment. And then COD obviously figured out their faults and then made the Modern Warfare from 2019, and that slapped. So they did a pretty good job there. So let me get into my stuff here.
Okay.
So I basically hit most of my stuff. I do want to talk about my last point a little bit. So, campaign bad, multiplayer good. Is the easiest way to explain how I feel about the game. Forge is seemingly limitless possibilities. Covered that a little bit already. And elimination goes brrr. So
That's right.
just add like 25 R's to the end and you're good.
Yeah.
So I my first champion rank ever in Halo was not on Halo Wars 2. It was on Halo 5, and it was an elimination. So I played with, all the BTC boys, with Pat, with Nick, and Gabe. We all four played 50 elimination games in a row from placements to champion in one sitting.
Wow.
Yeah, it was insane. We did it for like 6 hours because we liked it so much, and we were just winning every game. We actually beat 2 pro teams while we were doing it. I guess they were just in it to like relax or something from the actual gameplay of Arena. So, but that was a fun time, and I do not regret doing that. So, otherwise, that's all I really have positive about the game.
You want to get ready to just
Multiplayer was
absolutely
incredible.
destroy this individual?
Yes, I would love to do that.
Okay.
So, past this point, everybody watching, if you have another negative that we did not post that in the comments. If there's something that you liked about the game that we didn't mention, post it as well. This isn't a complete destruction of Halo 5. I mean, it was a destruction of the entire series, but this game had some positives to it. So put that out. We'd love to see it, and I'll give you a like in the comments. How about that? Free
Wonderful.
internet points. Yeah.
Wonderful. Uh, I'll start because I have a group.
I see your group.
I hate everything. I almost kind of copied and pasted some of my stuff from Halo 4, but there's a lot more. I hate everything about the Prometheans, still. I hate everything about the Promethean weapons, still. I really hate everything about Fireteam Osiris. I just can't with them. And I hate everything of the whole campaign story, with the exception of Arby that I elaborated prior. This
Yeah.
game, I don't know what it was trying to do. I wonder if, with the story and the perspective of who you're playing as, we're trying to replicate how it felt to play as Arbiter in Halo 2. Because there's a lot of nods to Halo 2 and Halo 5.
There are. There's
Especially with
a
Halo 2.
disgusting amount.
Yeah, especially with Halo 2 Anniversary. And I think that they were trying to replicate what it felt like to go into Halo 2, almost like how Halo 4 was a semi-soft reboot,
Yeah.
whereas Halo Infinite, I think, is going to be a hard reboot. I think they were trying to make like, oh, if Halo 4 is kind of like Halo 1, let's make Halo 5 like Halo 2 in terms of how you experience the game. And it just didn't click. I don't know if it's because Spartan Locke is a very unlikable character. I don't know if it's because no one will shut up during the campaign missions. The radio chat between all of the members on both
Oh
Blue
my
Team
gosh.
and Fireteam Osiris, it's too much.
Yeah.
And another point I have is there's just too much crap. There's too much crap in this game. And what I mean by it is there's too much talking about stuff that doesn't make it's just useless to the player. There's too many locations you go to that doesn't add any sort of value to the experience. It's kind of like you're just chasing where Master Chief had already been to a couple of times. And it doesn't end anywhere.
So I have a good counterpoint. Well, not a good counterpoint, but like in addition to what you're saying. So one game that does this very well in comparison to Halo 5. So you're like, there's a lot of places you have to go to out of nowhere. Like you go to Genesis, you go to I think you don't go to a Halo Ring. You go to, the Swords of Sanghelios, like you go to Sanghelios, you're on the random planet Meridian and stuff like that. You're in so many different places. A game that does this very well is Doom Eternal. That they did it exceptionally well because just how well everything was designed, and it made total sense why he went to each place. In this, it just feels like you're just chasing Master Chief, but there's no description of why you're chasing him to these places. Like, why does he go to Meridian? Why does he go to in to Genesis, I mean, of course, the easiest thing you could say is just, oh, he's going to find Cortana. Cortana's leading him into these places. Okay, that's a very, very easy filler to write. You just say, oh, yeah, he's just following Cortana. Okay, well, why is Cortana going to these places? They're they're simply using very simple mechanics in story writing to write this story that they're trying to make, as you were saying earlier, Avengers level.
I think there's a little bit of
You know?
smoke and mirrors going on with how they wrote this story. And
Mhm.
one of the worst things, in my opinion, you can do when you're writing a story is you have an emotional ending or send off for a particular character. In this particular example, I'm talking about Cortana. You had a
Yeah.
fantastic
Oh my
ending
gosh.
in Halo 4. An
Yeah.
ending that I said in the previous episode was probably one of the few times I could count on one hand that I cried during gaming, and the ending of Halo 4 was one of those times. And to just bring Cortana back, first of all, I don't even think they explained at the start when we first talked to Cortana
Mhm.
again why she came back. They still didn't explain it all that well. She's just like, oh, what did she say? Like she entered the Forerunner domain,
Yeah,
or
she explains it later
it's just
into the story, which
it's
is like,
why the
why?
Star Wars sequels suck, because you just pull out that say Palpatine survived blowing up in a Death Star, by the way. And you kind of do the same thing here with Cortana. It just That's not good writing. You don't just say, "Oh, the character we had designed to kill is back." I don't know if like maybe during when they were writing this, they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, well the game needs to ship at this particular date. We don't have a story. What's an easy solution?" "Oh, we'll just say Cortana never died." I don't I don't know if they had designed Cortana to
Yeah.
go into Halo 5 or not at the end of Halo 4. And
Well,
I don't like the way they executed it this way.
I think if they explained or even elaborated so get this. If bear with me here. If at the end of Halo 4 they showed like a little teaser in the legendary ending at the end of like a bright red flash of Cortana, that would have been it. They could have just done that and it would have all made sense. You know?
Hmm.
Because it's like, oh, one of her, you'd get a 2 hour a hidden Xperia video explaining how Cortana's variants actually survived, and that's what created the current Cortana. Like, come on. That would have been the perfect way to explain what happens in Halo 5, and they didn't do that. I guess they weren't thinking ahead, or they just didn't know where they wanted to go after Halo 4. But because Halo 3, everyone was like, oh my gosh, Requiem sounds so dumb, so stupid. And then you go back into Halo 3's legendary ending and you're like, oh my gosh, Requiem was actually there in Halo 3's legendary ending.
It was.
So like this entire storyline for Halo 4 was already planned in Halo 3 back in
Actually,
2007.
so were the Guardians.
Yeah, they were. And that's crazy because the Guardians were going to be in Halo 3.
Yeah, so
Um,
essentially 343 is almost just playing out what Bungie had already laid the groundwork for. So, uh,
yeah, they're just doing it at different time periods because Cortana was supposed to talk to the Guardians in Halo 3, according to at least like the Lost Files, and I guess they brought her back to do that. Like, they brought her back into the story and just gave her some sort of retcon, and boom.
I think
You
that
know?
here's also an interesting correlation that I think is too much to be a coincidence is that in Halo 4 and 5, we're mostly fighting the Prometheans, who I
Yeah.
particularly find to be very unenjoyable to take out for various reasons. And adding the soldiers and then making the knights be like a mini boss battle didn't change that. And the Warring Eternals did not change that either. But I think there's an interesting similarity between how a lot of the general overall community didn't like the Prometheans to how they didn't like the robots in Gears of War 4. Because in Gears of
Oh,
War
okay.
5, they really took a step back on fighting the robots. And instead, you're facing I forget now. I've only played Gears 5 once. I'm not actually sure if it's the Locust again you're fighting in Gears 5 or
It's like a proto locust.
yeah, and then
So
in Halo Infinite, you can kind of see they're taking a similar step back as well, and they're showing you the Banished and not the Prometheans again. Actually, we're recording this in the middle of at the end of September 2021. The game launches in like 2.5 months, and we have not seen any Promethean material in Halo Infinite yet. And I don't think that that
uh,
is unintentional. They are intentionally not showing Promethean
mhm.
weaponry, characters, footage, whatever. And I think that's to distance themselves from players not enjoying facing this faction. That's
Nope,
I could be
that's
wrong.
absolutely
It's a
right. Yeah.
subjective argument, but that's my thought.
I mean, people hated fighting the soldiers, and I do like how some of the soldiers could drive. That was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But they could easily just make, elites drive, and that would be the same thing. Because elites use human weapons all the time, and so do
Mm-hmm.
brutes.
Yeah.
So I remember getting wrecked by a brute with a shotgun in previous games. So,
I
uh,
This game also has an atrocious cliffhanger ending. I mean,
oh my god, yeah.
it was actually laughable on how the game ends. And they kind of fixed this in one of the Halo novels. I forget now which one it is. Someone's going to yell at me in the comments, but I actually read the first few chapters, and it's something like it actually shows like, and it's actually written like Dr. Halsey will say took you long enough, and then it'll say something like Chief and Arby talked a little bit, and then like they flew to Infinity, and then like Chief and Arby were separated for like debrief or something. Um, I forget now the name of the novel. It's horrible of me to say, but anyway, um, so they do write a little bit to elaborate on what happens after that cliffhanger ending, but the cliffhanger ending is horrible. I just wanted Chief and Arby to say something to one another. That's like what I wanted because we hadn't seen the relationship in a game in 8 years. Halo 3 came out
Yeah.
07 and Halo 5 was 2015. That's an 8 year difference. I wanted them to speak. And we also, here's another thing that I think 343 is being intentional about. We haven't seen Arbiter in Infinite material yet either. So are they,
We've,
what would
we
be
haven't
like
seen really
kick in
anything about them.
the biggest kick in the pants that 343 could do? Would it be like Arby and Chief got so close that they were physically in the same spot at the same time at the end of Halo 5, and then they'll probably jump time in Halo Infinite, and then they're separated again. And they may not interact at all in Halo Infinite.
Yep.
I bet you they're going to do
I
that.
believe it. Yep. And I think they're gonna just stick it completely away from Arby in general, because there's no playable elites in Infinite at all. Um, and the only elites you really see are the ones from the Banished. So there's really, at least so far, we have seen. So there's probably nothing to do with the actual like reformed elites in general. So it's probably just all Banished elites,
Yeah.
which are cracked. So
Do you.
they're fantastic.
Here's a question. Do you think if, let's say, Halo 5 came out the way that it was in 2015, and everyone hated it as they do now, what do you think people would have a different opinion of Halo 5 if 343 were to say, hey, we really screwed this story up, we're going to instead release an expansion pack or like maybe another spin-off, kind of like ODST or something, call it Halo 5, whatever, and it was like another story that either continued or was kind of interstitial to the story of Halo 5 that kind of answered a lot of these questions.
Like it fixed it. They
Yeah,
could do what movie is that? Is it Vantage Point? Where they could do it. They Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. Get 3 expansions, right? Because two is not enough. You need three. Um, have 3 total expansions, one from each different person's point of view. So like Osiris and Blue Team, and then do an expansion of um
Arby.
no yeah, do one specifically with Arby, do one specifically with Blue Team, one specifically with Osiris, and then have one with like either Warden or another side character, like someone who just fills the gaps,
Yeah.
like Lasky or something like that crazy.
Or
So,
or they could take like the Halo Wars 2 route and say like we're going to
mhm,
add additional campaigns, and they would all be playable in the same game. So like they would say, okay, here's an expansion for Halo 5, and this not necessarily retcons the story, but it fixes a lot of these problems. And then like if you were to get this expansion pack, that would actually change the order of some of these missions. Like maybe there's like a prologue mission that explains like how Blue Team found one another, and how Fire Team
yeah,
Osiris was formed, and like where Arby was, and like the kidnapping of Dr. Halsey at the beginning. I mean, it just feels like Halo 5 starts like, how like you in the old days, if you didn't DVR a show, you like come home and be like right in the middle of of an
oh
episode,
yeah,
and you're
yeah,
like trying to figure it out. I feel like that's how Halo 5 starts. It's like in the middle of a TV show. You're like, what the hell's happening? And
yeah.
I
No,
wonder
that's fair.
if an expansion pack came out and it fixed some of these problems. I wonder if people would have a different opinion of Halo 5. I think they
I
would.
think so. Yeah. I mean, the only expansions they really had to this game was maps, so
Because the game,
they gave those out for free. So
fundamentally, the game is great from a gameplay perspective. Like the gunplay is smooth and the movement is fluid and it's buttery smooth at 60 FPS, and it most of the time it looks great from a graphics standpoint, and I don't think the art style is all that bad, to be honest. And it's just the story drags it down so much that it's just unplayable as a Halo fan.
no, yeah, I agree with you completely.
Okay.
Um, my it's that would work if they made some sort of expansion to the game. This game, so I noticed this game and um Halo Wars 2 had a completely different feel. Like we're going to talk about Halo Wars 2 next, but Halo Wars 2 felt like it was written by like the original Bungie crew, and 5 felt like it was written by some movie director
Yeah.
who it feels, yeah, like how you were saying earlier, feels exactly like someone writing a continuation like episode 7, 8 or 9 of Star Wars.
Yeah.
They're so lore heavy and they're so not into having fun, you know?
Yeah, I will say Halo 5 isn't as lore heavy as Halo 4 was. I feel like
Hmm.
Halo 4 did a better job of balancing introducing new lore but still being fun to play as, and you didn't need to be as focused on that lore if you weren't all that interested into it,
Hmm.
if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense.
I thought the microtransactions really killed the entire Warzone perspective of this multiplayer.
Okay. Yeah.
There, so this is what I mean by too much crap. There's too many weapons, too many skins. I don't even know what the hell they're naming these things off of. I don't understand the rarity. I don't understand why like some battle like a UNSC battle rifle has a Covenant scope on it. Or
Mhm.
it has like it shoots Forerunner bullets. They're like just from a I just don't get it. I don't understand it from a lore perspective. I don't know if this multiplayer is canon. You may know these answers to these questions, but I just
No.
couldn't map my mind around any of this.
No, you're completely correct. And some of those weapons became stronger because you added these new things to
Yeah, like they had like the
them.
Halo 2
And I
classic
thought that
battle
was a little
rifle in
ridiculous.
here.
So Warzone is very, yeah, like what is that? Come on, guys. You could have had that in there to begin with and people would have loved you for it.
Yeah,
But instead you added your terrible Halo 4 battle rifle that I have so many problems with. Um Warzone is pay to win. It is literally pay to win. The only skill level involved is getting the levels required to pick up a weapon.
mm-hmm.
Um, and you could spawn in. It's like, oh, I don't have any cards for this, but then you have some guy with a legendary wasp, um, and the smaller cousin of the hornet, I guess you could say, and he comes in level 4 wreck. He's like, all right, let's blast him. It basically just because he has that cooler, better card than you that's more rare, he's going to get so many more kills than you. Which is ridiculous. Someone coming in at level 2 Rex with a machine gun turret is ridiculous. Now, machine gun turrets aren't horribly overpowered, but the fact that you can just spawn one in, whereas Halo is an arena shooter where everyone starts off in equal footing, besides Halo 4, that's kind of ridiculous. I will say Halo Reach also had that, but Halo Reach, everyone had to choose between a set loadouts. It wasn't like in Halo 4 where you could make the most broken loadout physically possible and go plasma pistol and magnum or something stupid like that.
Yeah.
Um so what happened to Arby? He got thick.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
Arbiter got really big, and I don't know what they were doing with his new art style. Yes, he looks cool and all, but like nothing in any of the previous Halo games looked anything like that. I was expecting him to be in like the shipmaster helmet, or the big old red one that you see in Halo 2 and you see in Halo Wars 2. Those ones are nice. Those actually fit the art style of Halo. This one just feels like he has a bunch of spikes on him, and he's going full metal, I guess you could say. He's going Mad Max levels of decked out stuff going on. Oh, as well, I mean, we've already touched on it, but on Warzone, there's the mode of Warzone Assault, which I actually really liked. Warzone Assault is now only playable on weekends. Why?
What?
So, yeah, what? Why is it only playable in certain times? Why is it time gated? A key thing to Halo 5's success, which is Warzone, an entire game mode of Warzone is now time gated. Same with Warzone Firefight, I believe. You can only do like Mythic on certain weekends. But I guess that makes sense with like Griffball, but Griffball's a fun thing to do in the previous Halo games. It's like a sport where you can only play it on certain times of the week. So it's kind of weird. Another thing that these two things have to do with the development of the game. Why is there a game in 2015 that is over 100 gigabytes? Now, COD can get away with this in 2019 with Warzone, at some points being a gigantic game that can't even fit on certain consoles. But, oh, what was it? There was a PlayStation that came with Modern Warfare 2019 and it couldn't fit on it, I
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah.
I remember that
It
being a thing.
it was something like if you got the 500 gig PS4 and then you wanted to install Modern Warfare and Warzone
That's what it was, yeah.
and all the system updates and game updates, you couldn't do both.
Yep. And it comes with it.
Yeah.
Why? But yeah, Halo 5 was like the same thing. I could only have like 6 games on my original Xbox because Halo 5 just took up half my hard drive at the time. Also, what are all these helmets?
I can't with and it's kind of coming into MCC as well with these helmets.
What is going on? They're just bizarre at this point. You have Skeletor in MCC now, but these ones that Halo 5 has are ridiculous. The Seeker helmet, the cursed helmet, the one that everyone always sends a picture of whenever they're like trying to give an example of bad looking helmets in Halo 5. That is the one. As well, like you were saying earlier, there's so many skins. I don't get it.
It's
Um,
it's over the top.
it is a
Completely.
little over the top. Yep. They added so many of those helmets too that look exactly the same. It's kind of redundant. Why not do it the way that Reach did it, where you have a helmet and then you click on it and you have variants of that helmet within that section. That would make more sense. Because the entire UI is just garbage. I cannot sort through 200 of the exact same helmet just to find the one I want, whereas there's 10 different variants of it. Like, come on.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
entire UI was, you could tell that they did not build it with those things in mind. That's, for the most part, the only thing that I had left was that the Master Chief and Locke fight is terrible, and there are so many memes about it.
Yeah, I
Um,
just you could feel this tension building up that like the two of them were eventually going to meet in the campaign, and the way that it happened was just so bad. I
oh my gosh,
I
yeah.
I, I don't know. It was, you expected something more, and
Yep.
it didn't deliver, and he just like cracked the glass in his helmet, and it was like, oh, like now you gone and done it.
Oh, now you gonna go. Oh.
I don't know. I think this game was the game that really killed Halo, and I think that this game, the reason why we haven't seen a mainline Halo game since, is due to because of all the mistakes made in the decisions of the story in Halo. And I think
Mhm.
this goes as a reminder to people that Halo is Halo because of both of its story and its multiplayer experience. And if you can't deliver
Yeah.
on both, you're going to have a fail of a game. And for years, Sony was trying to develop a Halo killer with like Killzone and other games that failed, like Haze and whatever they were trying to do. A lot of games were trying to become Halo killer. That was like a dubbed term. And it was kind of
Mhm.
funny. The only thing that really killed Halo was Halo itself. And
Yep.
um, like I said earlier, we haven't seen Halo since then, and I think 343 finally learned that they just can't shove these changes down our throats that the fans don't want, like dramatically changing the art style, completely throwing out the story out of the window and just think that people will be okay with it, and not being true to what these characters are. And um, there's just a lot of mistakes made in this story and with the multiplayer design as well. And 343 has tried to fix their errors with Halo Infinite. They're still repeating some of these mistakes with not shipping with
Yeah.
co-op or Forge at launch. But I think they realized that they messed up, and I think this path to recovery started with them fixing MCC, because MCC was still broken when Halo 5 launched. And
Mhm.
yeah, I think they did a really good thing with greenlighting and releasing Halo Wars 2. I actually think it's brilliant that Halo Wars 2 is a prologue to Halo Infinite.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm
I mean,
excited to see where this story goes, but I'm weary to see that a lot of these characters and a lot of decisions made are either going to be like completely retconned or eliminated in Halo Infinite.
yep. And so, looking at the end of Halo 5, getting into when, to the conclusion of Halo 5, getting into Halo Wars 2 eventually here, you'll see that they do nods whenever we get into Halo Wars 2 of like what happened in Halo 5, and they actually left all the things that happened. So they obviously did not retcon this game. They left it
Yes.
in all of its glory and all of its hardships, and we have to deal with it
I
forever.
think it's really cool that Halo Wars 2 kind of bridges the gap between Halo 5 and Halo Infinite.
Yeah.
And I wonder, actually, if do you think Halo Wars 2 was greenlit because of the disaster of Halo 5? Meaning, like, let's say we're inside listening at what happens at 343. They launch Halo 5 and they realize that fans just hate this campaign.
Mhm.
And they're like, well, we don't want to fix this with an expansion pack. We want to do this right next time. And maybe they're like, this is going to take years to get a new engine, to go back to the classic art style, to dramatically change this story and put it back on course. and
Yeah.
fix all the mistakes we made. And we don't want fans waiting this long for a Halo game. We need something in between, but like we're too busy ourselves to do this. We need to contract another team to make a Halo game. Maybe at that point, do you think they're like, well, we could resurrect Halo Wars and bring Halo Wars up into this timeline? And
Which I can't wait to get into Halo Wars 2.
I wonder if
That
that was the
is
decision. Like maybe that was why we got Halo Wars 2 to begin with, because we didn't like no one was like protesting demanding a Halo Wars 2. It just showed up one day
yeah.
on a release trailer.
Yeah, and that was the weird part about it because I had given up on Halo Wars 2 like 5 years after the game came out. Like Halo Wars 1, great game. I loved playing it, but looking how they treated it, I never thought there was going to be a second Halo game. Like Halo Wars 2 game. And here we are.
Yeah.
Our next episode is going to be about that game. So
There's a lot of questions left at the end of Halo 5, and that's I think it's important that Halo Infinite answers these questions. I'm confident that it will, but I think I wonder if Halo Infinite's going to be a really long campaign to give it time to answer these questions, like what's going on with Cortana, what happens with the Prometheans, what happens with Warden Eternal, what happens with Arby and Fireteam Osiris and Blue Team. I mean, there's a lot of characters now that they're going to have to deal with, and they may even need to answer for what they did in Halo Wars 2, like what happens with the Spirit of Fire and Red Team, and maybe even Omega Team. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot happening here, and it's exciting to see what's on the horizon.
yeah, and I really hope they pull it off because Halo needs a revival desperately. After Halo 5 showing, everyone sees Halo as a laughingstock now. Honestly, like the rest of the gaming community, I should say at least, sees it as a laughable game. Like, oh yeah, I played that game back in the day. It was awesome. It's terrible now,
Yeah. I don't
and that's how I
think
feel.
I don't think we're ever going to see Halo return to the Halo 2, Halo 3 levels of cultural phenomenon where
Yeah.
you're seeing people running into the store and buying a game. I said this on the Halo 4 episode, and I'll repeat it this time around. I think Halo 4 may remain as the top selling Halo game in terms of physical copies, because when Halo 5 came out, we started getting into this digital ecosystem, and now with Game Pass and digital, I don't think Halo 5 sold very well, and I think Halo Infinite's not going to sell very well either, at least in the physical standpoint. It may sell very well digital, and of course it'll do great for Game Pass. But I do like when you log on to Halo 3, you would see like 2 million people online. You're not going to see that with Halo Infinite, even with a free multiplayer. It's just there's too many.
It's not going to happen.
There's too many other games to play, and the gaming ecosystem is much more saturated now than it was 10 years ago. I think Halo Infinite will be really successful because it has a free multiplayer, but it's not. I don't think it's ever going to return to what it was, and that's not a bad thing.
It is not. With it being a niche game, they can do more things. They can be more creative with, their set, I should say, because they don't have to worry about the biases of the gaming industry, like battle royales or the push back in Halo 4 and 5 with advanced movement that we had that made this game such a controversial issue, or like when Sprint was added to Halo. All of these things were added because of pressure from other games, and now that Halo is smaller again, I feel like that's actually better because we're going to get a higher quality game. Because look at Doom.
Yeah, Doom's back.
Doom's back. I don't think anyone would have thought that about 6 years ago, when they first initially released, like, hey guys, by the way, this game's coming back, and you're like, what? That's crazy.
We're gonna see what happens with the Prometheans, what happens with the Banished in Halo Infinite, but for now, do I recommend you play Halo 5? I think so, just to get an understanding of the story in Halo Infinite, but it's not the experience that you will be looking for or hoping for when you played it. It's gonna let you down.
Yeah, be prepared for the letdown. Be okay with it because it's here to stay. Um, but you have a good multiplayer to play until that until Halo Infinite comes out.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
you'll have people there.
That's right.
So,
We're gonna be back with our final episode in this series of Halo Wars 2. We may do some supplemental follow-up episodes that'll be real quick, maybe about MCC and Infinite. That'll be structured a little differently, maybe like a 15-20 minute episode just talking about those games. But we're going to have a grand finale with Halo Wars 2. And we are both, I would say, experts on that game. So that's going to be a really in-depth, I think, amazing episode. There is a playlist, by the way, of every Halo game that we have reviewed. We have every Halo game that we've done. So if there's a particular Halo game you want to listen to us break down, please check that out. And
yes.
I'm excited for the Halo Wars 2 episode. That's going to be an awesome
Me too.
one.
That's one you and I know the most about because we put so many hours into that. I'm approaching, I think, 80 days or 85 days in the game. So we have our share, and I would personally love to do something structured if
Yeah.
we're able to. But that's going to be a good episode. So I was really hyped for the Halo 3 episode. I am 10,000 times more hyped. You could say 90 times more hyped for this last episode. So last official episode.
Well, Hosty, thank you so much for your time. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. We'll be back next time with Halo Wars 2. Please look forward to that. And we will see you then.
Bye, Kevin.